What's happening, guys? Hopefully you had a good day today. A lot of action. I'm going to go over some LCI, home, cool, a few other different names. One from pre-market this morning that I unfortunately didn't really size into. The thing about pre-market is I usually don't scale too much. I don't want to get too aggressive and then have blinders on out of the open. So for me, that was T, and I was there early. Very small size. I started in a little bit more over into this area over here. And, you know, it would have been a much nicer trade had I not started in earlier, because I probably would have been a little bit more aggressive, you know, adding into this downside. But I wanted to give myself room, let myself be wrong. And my goal was probably to scale over here under VWAP, but I just was assuming it was going to snap back. So I never really sized in. So overall, I ended up making about $1 per share or so. I think this ended up being about 38.80s to 39s. And the first couple ones were just small little dabbles just to kind of get a feel. The only time that I put on any size at all was into this push into the 39s there. And then I pretty much covered down all the way down into the 30. I think, let's see, 37.73. So happy with those covers. Then I look back at the end of the day, and obviously we're all the way down to the lows. So the goal should have been just not to cover all day and close my eyes. But what are you gonna do? So again, pre-market. Anytime I'm in a situation like that, you know, middle of the day, off after open, probably would have traded 4 times the size that I had. But pre-market, I'm not going to be there. So obviously I jumped in front of it. I was wrong. I let it kind of do its thing. And just like I said in the room, as it started to come in, and that was over at this level right here, I said, you know, the sellers are finally here. And so this probably would have been a great entry had I just been patient and then probably scale along the way. But again, I took that away from myself because, you know, I was early. So that is what it is, and you know it's gonna happen. ACAD, I was prepared for. I looked at it pre-market, and I got a little, you know, FOMO. Oh, you know, I coulda, woulda, shoulda got a nice little pullback, but that's what gets us in trouble, right? We look at it and we say there was $5 for a share. Oh, maybe it can go down another 3. We chase it, and all of a sudden it bounces up, you know, 2. So the key here was I was going to wait until the morning rip, and you can see that it actually, you know, did do a nice little pop, and I didn't actually take part in any of that. So I waited for it to kind of pretty much come in, and I started in around let's see, 41.04 or so. Basically, it started to get a little seller in here. You can see ramp up, fail, ramp up, fail, ramp up, fail. So that's what we want to see. But at this next point, this was really the key, because you know it starts to come back. We need to see it ramp up, and basically using that VWAP as a guide. I don't want to have any emotional attachment to the trade. Otherwise, I'm going to be too jumpy, and either I'm going to cover into this, you know, any upside move here, or probably get a little too jumpy around the covers. So it started to come back in, went up a little bit, failed. I went ahead and locked some in around the core, locked a little bit more in, and then moved on. So moved on right around 37 or so. And that was it for the trade. So that was actually my trade of the day. I ended up making the most on this one, and it's just because it's a trade that I'm comfortable with, and essentially took it from 41 and 40 all the way down to 37. So and it didn't even require a ton of size when you get that 350 per share fade. So the strengths here, or the part that I would say was the best part of my trade, was covering into the washout and not thinking, oh, how much more could I make? I reacted to the action, and you know, reminded myself that I can always add more if it starts to stay heavy at this 37 level. So that was the trade there. I never went back, and the reason why that I never went back is because, you know, we're jumping around this VWAP level. We're stuck around this VWAP level, and you know, it's you start to get into this 50-50 where it could go either way. So I want to be cautious when it's jumping around that level, because you can start to size in and all of a sudden it flushes right back down to the support. And then you can start to think it's going to rally. You start to add a little bit and then bam, it comes right back in. So be cautious anytime, this is VWAP and, it's just going up and down around it. Because the more times it does it, the more kind of 50-50 your risk to reward becomes. Home and LCI are two great examples of, I guess LCI probably a little bit more so, or excuse me, home. LCI wasn't as clean, but didn't really size until the backside. Home, I saw it early, and then I lost it off radar. And then I look back, and oh wow, it's at 8. So as I told the room, I was putting on just a little feeler over here, just around 808 or so. And so this level, had it started to peak out at 8, and then failed to follow through, then 790s failed to follow through, then I could scale in. But all I did is just put on a small batch. I think it was maybe 1,500 shares or something like that. And I wanted to let it go. My goal was, let's see it go to 820 to 850s, something like that. And at which point, I would wait to let it find its top. You can see right over here, 820s, kind of fail, then it slams down. Again, I'm not trying to get, the top here again. I am just waiting for it to fail off this prior support level. So at that point, I started to scale into the trade, and I went ahead and locked a little bit around the core, re-added a little bit, and covered some more, re-added. And then I sized in a little bit more, and like I said, if it didn't stay heavy right there in the room, then I was getting out on the rest. So overall, fantastic trade. Nice unwind. What I liked about this is, I did not fight it on the front side. So like we talked about on Friday with LCI, exhausting yourself on that front side. Whenever I dabble on the front side of the move, whenever I take a small position, and everybody's like, well, why, if you think it's going to go to 820, 850s, why would you even short it? Well, I had already missed this entire move, right? I saw it early, and then it was like 760s, and then I look back and it's 8s. And, who knows? The next time I look at it, it might be 750, and I missed the entire move. So my way of kind of getting in there is just to put a small touch on, just to get familiar with it. Maybe it's a couple hundred shares, maybe it's 500, maybe it's 1,000, whatever it may be. And you want to be able to be emotionless with that size. So higher the better. Let it do its thing. If it doesn't go any higher, at least you had that small little piece on. So say I put it on at that 805 level, 805, 810 level, and then 8 came, and then 790s. Well, now I can add. Now I can scale into that 805, 810 average, when before I'd just be kind of chasing it down. So that's the benefit of it. And then the other benefit is you don't lose it off radar. And obviously, if it goes to 820, 830, 850, it's a number that to you is not going to be, it doesn't have any emotional attachment to it. So at any rate, nice fail there, and came back. Nice little reclaim again. So we should have a decent opportunity throughout the rest of the week here. Let's see. MGI was, I kind of was dabbling in there throughout the day, and I got some into the news there. They had a news, I think something with Verizon or whatnot, but they had a downside point target of 350 by Barclays this morning, and it sold off into that, but it was breaking down, but it just wasn't doing enough, right? It was still kind of hanging on, so I went ahead and covered most of it right over here at 490. And I think I had a couple hundred shares left over here that just didn't fill in the pit. So overall, that ended up being a loser. It was a gainer at this point, but then I was like, ooh, I don't want to miss it breaking down. It looked like it was about to crack. I chased it back down a little bit, but I respected the trend. So that was one that I respected the trend on. And then ARWR was another. Again, just a little bit of a feeler, just because ARWR I've been focused on the last couple days. I've been getting there, but not really capitalizing on it. And so then my goal on this one was I put on a little feeler, and my goal was 30s, 30 push versus VWAP. So I got in there like 30 10s or so, something like that. and then it started to ramp back up and ended up covering into the VWAP level. And as you can see, that ended up proving to be a dumb cover. But you know what? Every other time that this thing rebounded, ended up just kind of grinding back and grinding back. So, you know, it's important to stop out. It's important to show, you know, a good stop out. It is what it is. I could have gotten back in there as it broke down. It did exactly what I was expecting / hoping, but I thought it was going to happen here, and it didn't. So since it didn't go directly to my plan, I went ahead and moved on. So other than that, we got Cool. Cool was a decent one today. Some good action overall. I had a first short off the newsletter, and then it flushed out. And I just kind of dabbled throughout the morning, and then covered it all down into this flush. So this was 429s and 437s or so. So it flushed out, but it was still holding. So each time that the newsletter would sell, we've talked about this a lot, they would absorb more, and it would absorb more. And so it wasn't really going away. So I wanted to be very, very cautious and make sure that I was on the cover side, especially on the front side of the move. And, you know, I can always add back in if it starts to break down. But especially if you're stepping in front of it and you're trying to play against the crowd, in this case, you know, newsletter, 1,000, 2,000, however many subscribers they have, you know, all buying the same thing and then all selling the same thing. It's a strategy in itself, but if when they sell, it doesn't break down, you got to be cautious. So at any rate, covered all that. And then I started to reshort into the push here, 480s. And this actually was a pretty good one. It came all the way down to 430s and down all the way to 412s. So I was very happy with that. I covered about a half to about a third left, and then I just went ahead and left the trade because who knows? We might be headed for higher. So obviously it ended up pulling back the rest of the day. I think we should keep an eye on this tomorrow, but this one was definitely the better of the trade of the two, but ended up being a pretty good gainer overall. LCI was a good trade overall. Minimized for sure, just because I kind of sized out. I guess it was all right, but this down here at the 1180s was probably a little bit better. But scaled into it, scaled out, scaled in, scaled out, and then I added some more, and you know, it started to kind of grind me. So the fact that I had covered and you know, I wasn't, I guess, being too aggressive on the short side. Let it kind of do its thing, and I waited for the backside. So as you can see, just like HOME, this should look very familiar. Let it do its thing, come back to this support level, and you can see that the prior area was 1270s that was holding. You can see that they had some trouble over here, and then as it broke down, started to kind of scale into the winner, and then cover around the core. So good action there, and that was good. What else? Home, ARWR, MGI went over. Oh, SINT. I probably should have been a little bit more aggressive but I located the stock early. You know, it was all the way up to 250s. This is a runner that we're familiar with. It's not it's not good to look at the chart and say it always fades, it always pulls back, because that's how you get in trouble. So you always want to let the price action confirm that thought process, or at least that idea. But anyway, a lot of baggies here, and unwound, failed follow through off of VWAP. So to me, that's a short into the ramp versus the pre-highs there, or especially, you know, this type of pre-resistance, or if you need to, VWAP, which in this case it actually lines up. So that was pretty much it for the day for me. You know, I kind of scaled in, scaled out, scaled in, scaled out, and then I left it alone. So I maybe missed out on a dime, but it would have taken all day, and not my style. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, you know the drill. Comment section below. Reach out, and more than happy to help.